room around protecting unions. There's interest in this room around reparations. There's interest in this room around...
Yes, reparations for Black Americans.
Around addressing gun violence that's plaguing our communities. There's interest in this room around fracking and ending that in our cities and in our state and around the nation. There's interest in this room around protecting reproductive freedoms and health care for all. There's interest in this room here around eliminating corporate PAC money from deciding our elections. So I wanted to just mention those things just as you are thinking about your closing remarks. To think about all the interest in this room that we were not able to get to, and if those individuals leave here today, what would you say to them as a reason that they should consider you for voting? So here's, for our closing remarks, we will do something a little unorthodox and different than what we did before. We're going to actually start with Mr. Shabazz, Teak Shabazz, and move to your right, and then go, and we will end up ending with Mrs. Smith. How much time? I'm sorry, yes, thank you. If you can take 90 seconds to do a closing remarks. So, yes, Tariq Shabazz, sorry.
Sorry I did that peppermint. Okay. Everyone, I'm Tariq Shabazz. If you all have been listening today, right now, we need to have a different type of fighter in Congress. I'm asking you to allow me to be your megaphone. Allow me to have your voice actually reach so many people on Capitol Hill. It's far too long we've been voiceless. When you look outside your communities, you look in your streets, you see it's a lack of economic opportunity. You see these kids don't have any direction, no guidance. We need to do something fundamentally different. And as has been alluded to previously, we have some candidates here who's going to push more and do what these corporate PACs tell them to do. We need to move away from these things. We need a 28th Amendment. 28th Amendment that repeals the Citizens United decision. There's far too much money in politics, far too much. I'm asking you to allow me to be your next fighter. As a Navy veteran, think about the things that I'm talking about. Removing some of that funding that's going to that Department of Defense and reprioritizing it, putting it in other areas. Because we are investing far too heavily in war and destruction all throughout this world. We're investing far too heavily in the lack of opportunity for our people in this country and for investing in revitalizing some of these other countries that are dealing with immigration coming here. We need to be talking about these things, a healthcare system for everyone, ending the prison pipeline that sends so many black young men that look like me into those cells. We need to be talking about those things. And again, look at some of my colleagues up here. I am a 27-year-old man. I don't have the 20-year head start as them, but I guarantee you give me 1 year, and I guarantee I can show you so much different than they have not done. Thank you.
One, two. Yes, I'm the only one up here that made payroll. I ran businesses. I know what a businessman goes through. I understand what employees go through. And I'm someone that don't have a record of failure. The reason I got into this race, I look at my neighborhood, and it looks like a third world country. And we should not be looking like a third world country in the United States of America. So when I get in the office, I'm asking you to vote for Latif Shabazz. We're the heirs. And I'm an old guy. I'm 67 years old, okay? So I know I got a history. I understand where we come from and where we're going. And we need to send somebody down there that's gonna fight for you. When you get all this big money into this campaign, you poor people are gonna have to stand in the back line because they're gonna have to take care of the people who donated all this big money. Do you want somebody outside of your district to be in control of your congressperson? That's what you need to ask yourself. Again, Latif Shabazz.
Thank you. As a businessman, I have made payroll, so. But anyway, like I said, government is supposed to work for you, not against you. And in this region, over the last 20 years, government has not been working for us. And that might not have been working against us, but it definitely has not been working for us. And in my journey over these last 3 years, about issues with Ohio State, I learned that very quickly, that a big corporation can control some politicians, and then they're not fighting, and then they leave the little person behind. Okay? I'm not gonna leave any little people behind. I'm not gonna leave the working people behind. That's not what I do, that's not what anyone should do. But that is what's going on here. The little working person is getting left behind. And that's time to change that. I've been fighting for people. I've been fighting for kids to go to college. I've been fighting for kids to get jobs. My dad has been fighting to get minority contracts, and my dad's been fighting to get, our family's been fighting to get business loans to people, and that's what we have to continue doing.
Fight for reparations. Reparations for Black American descendants of slaves. Let's talk about that. Y'all asking for black votes and ain't saying stuff for black people.
Yes, ma'am. As you see, I'm African American. I'm gonna fight for African Americans too.
I ain't talking about no fight for African Americans. I'm talking about reparations.
All right, thank you very much.
Y'all stay on topic. We heard all y'all background.
Thank you for the opportunity again for being here. It is so important that we focus on the issues important to our community.
Yes.
And we haven't had an opportunity to talk about all of them with the length and breadth of what we really need to do. So it is my hope that we continue this dialogue. It's important for me that you understand that I believe I am the best and the right on the issues. I understand about college debt. I have 3 college degrees. I graduated from Kent State with my BA, and I graduated from Case Western with my master's and my law degree from Case Western. So I understand the need for us to look to college and forgiving college debt as well. I'm also focused on the issue of street violence and crime that impacts this area like it impacts all of the 11th district. It's important that we put someone in office, in my opinion, that's proven and prepared. I've been a public servant for 30 years. I have no apologies for that. That was my choice. I chose to have a career in public service. You know, people try to criticize politics. It's an honorable profession. And I've served 23 years in elective office, 14 on the front line as a councilman, 9 years as a state senator. It's logical for me to make the next step to the federal government. I'm ready to get started. I'm ready to fight for the issues important to you. I understand. I fought for to remove poison lead from the rental units of Cleveland. We got that legislation that I sponsored. It was passed without my name on it once I left council, but it was something that we pushed in the streets. So environmental justice is a big issue for me too. So there's so many issues that we need to talk about. Poverty, we didn't even touch the surface for that, but let's get it together and I ask for your vote on August 3rd. Thank you.
I have been privileged and humbled to be a pediatrician for 40 years, taking care of one child at a time. And as Senator Sykes commended me a couple weeks ago for doing my civic duty, I felt that it was time, with our country being in such a situation, that I tried to solve or help to work to make people's lives better for everybody. We will be celebrating in a couple weeks the 4th of July, our Declaration of Independence, where we are guided to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But that document was written when there were slaves and their women had no political rights. We've made progress, but we need to make more progress, and I'm an impatient person, and I'm sure that many of you are impatient as I am in this room. As I drove down Copley, between an abandoned store and a new Circle K, I saw a handwritten sign, "Vote for Kids." I want to make your lives, especially your kids and grandkids, to be better. For you to enjoy all the fruits of our great country, to make it a more perfect union. I want to earn your confidence, trust, and support. I ask you to write to me, Seth, at QueryForOhio.com, and I want to hear from you, and I ask humbly for your support to make this a better world.
How can they hear without the preacher? How can I preach except I be sent? I must write the vision and make it plain, and those who read it will run with you. I heard you talk about reparation, but I also, as I stated when I was in the East Cleveland Library, I know that there is a move for redemption, restoration, and revival. Ezekiel had to go into a place where there was a dead situation and some hopeless people. We don't speak as people who have no hope in this room. And I heard you speak in the list of gun violence. Well, until we put prayer back into the schools and into the hearts and the minds and the hands of the people, all these promises, you're going to keep seeing what you see on these streets. You're going to keep seeing what you see on television until America comes back to God for decisions and the church is the light of the community. I'm a political preacher. Politics means you just have order. Religion just means that there's discipline in the order. And I'm not ashamed of anything that I am. And neither am I ashamed of you, because I do the work. I brought these with me. I want to know your concerns and your needs. And my phone number is 1216-548-0820.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Reverend. So I just want to remind folks of how I got into public service. I wanted to help my neighbors, and I won my very first race for city council by 7 votes. And so following the pastor is something that is reaffirming for me, because that 7 has been so significant in my life. 7 represents perfection, completion, and God. We find ourselves in a position right now where we are in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to capitalize on investments to reverse the disparate and discrimination impacts on our communities, particularly the Black community. As the candidate who proudly led the initiative to declare racism as a public health crisis in Cuyahoga County, not just a symbolic gesture of words on paper, but meaningful and impactful legislation that has been designed to ensure that we get the resources in the form, not in the form of reparations, but resources and services to support our communities and reverse those things that have had a disparate impact on us, not only for decades, but centuries. So as I ask for your vote, I want you to remember this, because again, that 7 is so important. Early voting starts July 7th, that's 7-7. This is 2021, that's 3 7s. I'm asking you to ask 7 people to vote for Chantel Brown, Chantel Brown, Chantel Brown for Congress. I say it 3 times for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Thank you.
And you know what? Chantel had that creative spirit, the smile and glow, since we used to work together a long time ago. Once again, my name is James Jerome Bell, and if I haven't asked you, please Google me. After 244 years of slavery, 400 years of Jim Crow, injustice, lynchings, castration, the African American experience is due reparations. The Japanese and Jews and even former slave owners had reparations. So the precedent has already been set. Set my people free. America, give African American people reparations.
Generational wealth.
Of $17.4 trillion.
Yes.
Once again,
yes.
My name is James Jerome Bell. Please Google me, and from there you will find information to contact me. Reparations, reparations, reparations.
Yes.
Today.
Yes, thank you. Need an agenda.
VoteBarnes.com. I'm running because I'm qualified, I'm experienced, and I have the longest track record of really getting things done. I've returned hundreds of millions of dollars to my district. I have passed laws that are very, very important to the lives of not only people who are on the lower economic spectrum, but on the high side of the economic spectrum. And so it is extremely important that you view this election, or consider viewing it in the context of a lens of who you're hiring to go to Congress. Who you're hiring to go to Congress means that you need someone who understands how to move things for this community, how to get things done, how to make us better than we are, how to build relationships around everybody so that there's an opportunity to build a better tomorrow for the 11th Congressional District of Ohio, and sit down with President Biden, because we are the poorest district in the nation. And we need to sit down not just to follow the Biden agenda, but to talk with the president about the poorness in this district, to move forward for people here, to say, use us as an opportunity to create a model for the nation so that we can build opportunities for people in this country for a better tomorrow. VoteBonds.com.
Thank you. Well, I count it all joy to have been able to be in your presence this afternoon. I want to thank the leadership of this area for hosting this forum. The civic work that I've been able to do in this community, even when it was not politically expedient, I want to continue that civic work. You know, in all that Dr. Akbar listed, in terms of unions, reparations, gun violence, fracking, reproductive freedom, healthcare freedom, corporate PAC money, it made me think about a quote from Booker T. Washington when he said there's two ways of utilizing one's strength. One is by pushing down and the other is by pulling up. I am running to continue to be a leader that pulls up. Medicare for all is about pulling up. Canceling student debt is about pulling up. $15 an hour minimum wage is about pulling up. Dealing with reparations is about pulling up. The ERA is about pulling up. We are a hegemon nation, and there really is no excuse. And when I say no excuse, I mean capital exclamation point bolded. No excuse for people to have to live and wallow in poverty. And but by the grace of God, there go I've been in many of those situations throughout my life, and I can relate to from a lived experience. You know, James Baldwin once talked about the fact about what progress, and he said, my grandmother had to wait, my mama had to wait, my daddy had to wait, my uncle had to wait. He said, how long must we wait for your progress? Now is the time. And so I am going to Congress to serve this community and to continue to pull up. I'm Nina Turner. Vote Nina Turner for Congress. Thank you, everyone. Mrs. Smith?
Well, I'm not here just to get the soft questions. We've been getting the soft questions for 3 months now. Mm-hmm. Everybody on this panel wants better health care, better education, good environment. We all want it. It's just a different approach. I am becoming so discouraged with these forums that don't ask the real challenging questions.
Right.
You know, what about our character? What about our integrity? What about lives?
Our reparations.
What about people who incentivize lives?
That's a tough question.
You know, what about people who are not telling the truth? I have those questions asked in these forums. This is about integrity. It's about character. It's about the people you're going to trust to go to Congress to represent you. And if they're lying now, and if they're not telling the truth now, they're going to do the same thing in Congress.
Right.
Why aren't the real questions being asked? I have really become disgusted in these forums. If you want real people to represent you, ask the real questions.
That's what I did.
Stop giving us these surface questions. Challenge us.
Mm-hmm.
I have nearly 20 years in the legislature. I have done a good job, and I'm good at it. Try me, challenge me. Everybody wants somebody to go to Congress that's going to say yes.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith.
Sorry.
Thank you. So,
that will conclude our questions for today as we have lapsed our time. But we want to give an opportunity for us all to thank all of the candidates that arrived here today.